Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 674th edition of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. I'm your host, Daniel Feuerstein. I'll give you American perspective of our clubs, leagues, players, national team, and other fabulous moments. Get your daily reading from me and other writers over at Beyond the 90 at beyondthe90.substack.com and locally on New York Soccer, currently at baddogsports.com. Just assisting JJ Pavlik till he fully recovers, but I will return to ajmsportsfc.com. Chat room on YouTube is open. Come on in. Discuss amongst yourselves if you like. You have a question for me, I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities. And we are getting ready to go underway. What are my thoughts about the FIFA Club World Cup? You know what? Look, I think we've gotten some great games. I really believe we had some. We have a yeah, we'll have some stinkers. I mean, a scoreless draw. Um, those clubs that are weaker, that are in this because they've won their respective Champions Leagues. Obviously, Auckland City FC out of New Zealand and the Oceania Confederation has not been great because they are all basically part-timers, which is really tough for that to happen. But you know what? Look, first time ever in this competition for them. Not And we just had a little bit of a problem there. Now we're back on. Sorry about that. Like I said, there's nothing to sneeze at. Just one of those things where this is the system in New Zealand. I mean, they do have professional players that do play around the world, but you're going to have leagues over there that is not a professional league. So good for them. And you know what? Even though they've been hammered by Bayern Munich and by Benfica, it's been pretty entertaining to watch them go out there and fight. At least they're playing hard, and they're going to get an opportunity here to go out there and do as much as they can and try to at least score a goal. If they can score a goal, I think it would be fantastic to see. But unfortunately for them, they're going to have to take on Boca Juniors, so that's going to be a real tough matchup for them. But other than that, we have seen some great matches, and who knows? We'll see if this thing will really work. But outside of that, I want to talk to everyone about a certain thing that was going on, and I want to thank, first of all, before I even talk about this, I want to thank my colleague and my managing editor at Beyond the 90, the owner of Beyond the 90, the one and only Kartik Krishnaiyer. I want to thank him for not taking down my article about the Tampa Bay Rowdies, who are owned by the Tampa Bay Rays, meaning Stuart Sternberg. Now, why will I even bother talking about this man? Because the truth of the matter is this, is that if you've watched his video on YouTube as well as on Beyond the 90. And once again, you can watch all our videos and read our articles at beyondthe90.substack.com, or you can go to our YouTube page on Beyond the 90, or you can go ahead on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to listen to our video pods, which also doubles as our regular audio pods. And I just want to thank him for not taking down my article. And for those of you not familiar with my writing, obviously just on American soccer, and occasionally I dabble in the lower levels, and most of the time, of course, international soccer, mostly in CONCACAF. See, this entire situation with Stuart Sternberg, who owns, once again, both the Tampa Bay Rowdies and the Tampa Bay Rays, I am really more worried about the Rowdy situation than the Rays situation, because I know the Rays situation will be taken care of very easily. And while maybe I might have gone a little bit too hard towards Mr. Sternberg, the reality is this. This man, which had deals with the government people in Tampa, the politicians in Tampa, to build a brand new stadium for his baseball club. He pulled out of it. He had negotiations and a deal done with the current tenants, where the current city that his ball club is playing in, including his soccer team is playing in St. Petersburg, Florida, just on the other side of the bay near Tampa. He pulled out of that. And with all the angst that he has given both government entities in the Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg area, of course, everyone knows he owns the Rowdies. Everyone knows he plays his soccer club at the former minor league baseball stadium, which is now a soccer stadium, at Al Lang. So, I mean, yeah, I wrote it, but I didn't just write it just for the hell of it. I used research. And what was the research material I used? Why, none other than former NBC Sports California pregame, postgame host of the Athletics and the San Jose Sharks, Brody Brazil. So if I'm using actual research through a gentleman that is now using social media to keep himself active, but at the same time informing us of the situations that are going on, not just in his area in the Bay, in San Francisco and Oakland, all the way over in the western part of the U.S. and California. He's in tuned not only what's going on in California, but what goes on in Texas, what goes on here in Florida, what goes on in New York, in Boston, Maine, Chicago, Detroit, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Minneapolis, St. Louis, Billings, Seattle, Portland, you name it, he does it. And he does all the sports: baseball, basketball, football, hockey, soccer. I mean, he has had articles or podcast videos on the Chicago Fire Stadium situation, on the Tampa Bay Rays and Rowdies situation, and also, which we'll talk about later on tonight once my guest comes on, the selling or the announcement that they are for sale, the San Jose Earthquakes. So for those of you who are for Stuart Sternberg, I applaud you. Congratulations. Good for you. But I am sorry. I will not stop writing about something that I see. And if I choose to write about it, I will. Because of all the things that have gone on in the Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg area, while I know that the Rays are probably the bigger of the two that need to remain in the Tampa, St. Pete area, and I know that the Rowdies are well supported, whether they are on the St. Petersburg side or they're going to go back to the Tampa side. And even though the Tampa Bay Sun of USL Super League, the Women's Super League in USL, have announced they're going to build their own soccer stadium, and I really do hope, and no offense with St. Petersburg or Al Lang, that if they do go and share that facility and partner with the Tampa Bay Sun, I say go for it. If not, then after the Rays are sold, I think Stu Sternberg should find a way to finally get rid of the outfield wall, redesign Al Lang Stadium, and have more seating and make it a real soccer stadium. Yes, it's still a soccer stadium. Yes, the infield is filled in. There's no more dirt. There's no more warning track around the outside. There's no more infield dirt. There's no more pitcher's mound. But if you decide not to join the Tampa Bay Sun in Tampa proper near Ybor City, then for the love of God, Stuart, redesign Al Lang Stadium and truly make it a soccer stadium. Okay? Really do it. And I know many people saying, yeah, but there's already stands in the outfield. You know, it's regulation size. It's okay. We're fine the way it is. No, I mean, look, I'm being honest here. Knock down the outfield wall that's still there. Knock it down. This is your opportunity to make Al Lang better than what it should be. But I will not stop writing about how I feel about the game in this country. I will not stop writing about how I believe American soccer should be treated in this country. While there are areas that it is respected, there are still areas where it is not. And it is time for you, Stu Sternberg, if you want to be back into my good graces and everyone else in Tampa, it's time to truly put your money where your mouth is. I don't care how you do it, but you have to do it. You want the negative press to stop? It's really simple. Either join the Tampa Bay Sun and help build that new stadium, or if you choose not to go to Tampa, stay in St. Petersburg, stay at Al Lang Stadium, and find a way to create new stands, permanent stands, knock out the old outfield wall, and build permanent seating on the other side of where the outfield wall is. I know it's still there. If many people believe and or hope that Al Lang will be used again for minor league baseball or spring training baseball, it's not in the cards. No one is going to go there. They're going to build a brand new minor league ballpark with all of the bells and whistles of what we see in minor league baseball today. Okay? And they'll probably build it somewhere else in St. Petersburg. They'll probably knock down Al Lang. So once again, it's really simple. I want Stu Sternberg to understand this right away. Do not mess this up. But the truth is this. If you can't do a simple thing like this, well, then I think you should sell the Rowdies. Give it to somebody who wants them. Give them to somebody who truly cares for them. I don't care who it is. Whether it be a local Tampa resident, whether it be a international investor, I say go for it. I say go for it and sell it to somebody else. That's all I can tell you. That's all I can say. Go out and either do your club right, which I believe you think you can do, or if you don't want to be involved in it anymore, just tell USL, I want to sell the Rowdies. It's up for sale. I'll do what John Fisher's doing with the Earthquakes and let somebody else take it over. That's it. And you know what? If you do that, Stuart Sternberg, if you do that, I will come on my show. I'll even write a report on Beyond the 90, and I'll say, thank you, Stuart Sternberg, for doing this and giving the Rowdies a real sense of belief that you are doing the right thing. I want to see it. I want to see it. Because if we are not going to get this from Mr. Sternberg, well, then get somebody else who will. Get somebody else who will. I don't care who it is. It could be a former Rowdies player who wants to get an ownership group to buy it from you. So all I can say is this. Keep the Rowdies in St. Petersburg. Keep them in Tampa. And if Mr. Sternberg wants to be a part of it, great. If he wants to sell it, Give it to somebody who wants it and who will care more for it than you will. Great show for you tonight. Of course, we heard during the FIFA Club World Cup and the CONCACAF Gold Cup, the San Jose Earthquakes are up for sale. And once again, joining me from the Bay Area, the one and only from SBI Soccer and Urban Pitch, Favian Renkel, joining me once again. Favian, welcome back. It's a hat trick. Thank you for coming back here. How are you, my friend? How's your family?
Honestly, I love being on here. As your listeners can tell, it's one of my favorite shows to be on, so I'm happy to be on again. Thank you, Daniel.
Oh, it's great to have you on as well, Fabian. Thank you for taking the invitation. I was shocked, to be honest with you. John Fisher officially announcing that the San Jose Earthquakes are up for sale. We'll get to the what I believe is the main reason, but until we get to there, when the news broke through social media, what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, look, in 2023, I predicted that the Quakes will be sold eventually. There was rumors about a potential buyer during that time, a buyer that a lot of local, people knew. Joe Lacob, owner of the Warriors, was a name popping around in rumor mills. So a lot of the Bay Area faithfuls and Bay Area sports fans really were excited about that Lacob can possibly be taken over the Quakes, because what he did with the Warriors was something that should be studied with all sports franchises. You bring the Warriors over to San Francisco, and then they go on that crazy run with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, if you have any basketball fans listening. But it became a franchise that became a household name. So the Quakes always had that potential, in my opinion, to be a bigger team in the Bay Area and a bigger team worldwide. And Fisher truly never saw it that way. A lot of fans are very grateful in San Jose that Fisher even helped bring the team back to the Bay Area, because again, the Zombie Quakes, the Houston Dynamo, are two-time champions because they should be Quakes, Quakes titles. But it's exciting times for the Quakes and Quakes fans, in my opinion, because there's a age-old problem in the Bay Area with soccer in the Bay Area. And Daniel, you might know this. There's a couple of things from the NASL days where a lot of people think that the Quakes should be an SF, but the whole kind of identity of the Quakes is not being an SF, right? So it's just an idea, and to really think about it, because the Quakes and the organization, with whatever owner they come in with now, have to find a way to unify this Bay Area, and that's a tough task for any team to do. And to be honest, MLS would like to have some sort of representation in SF as well, because they used to have their headquarters on the West Coast in San Francisco, as well as New York, and now they only have it in New York. So again, it would be nice for the Quakes to have some sort of hand on San Francisco as well as the South Bay.
Now, let me ask you this, and look, don't get me wrong. I would love to see San Francisco get involved. Obviously, that's a hot market in the Bay Area, not just with what the Warriors have done and what the Giants have done, but of course the 49ers at the time was also doing things there. Even the amateur soccer scene is big in San Francisco. I don't have to tell you about El Farolito. I know you know. I know. They've been on my show many, many times. Always glad to talk about El Farolito on here. But, long time ago, I remember seeing that news clipping through social media where at the time, I forget who the mayor of San Francisco was. She was going
Yeah,
to
former
not.
mayor London Breed.
Yes, thank you. She wanted to use an old mall that is empty, I guess, to knock down the middle and build an actual soccer stadium. Now, look, let me tell you something. You build a soccer stadium like that in downtown San Francisco, I mean, I'll be salivating like for 3 months, not
Yeah,
just for San Franciscans, but, for American soccer as a whole.
Yeah, look, the big issue in the Bay Area and in San Francisco, and if you've watched any sort of news in the last couple of years, you would know about the issues, right? We deal with a heavy delinquency problem, a heavy homeless problem, a heavy theft problem here in the Bay Area. And it's heightened when you get the juxtaposition of San Francisco, where you get the very rich with the very poor. And that Westfield Mall that used to be in San Francisco, that was just kind of like the hub. You would get all walks of life. And if you're NFL football fan, Ricky Pearsall, 49ers first round pick last year, was shot at the mall, being robbed for his Rolex, if I'm not mistaken. And honestly, that place needs a facelift. San Francisco needs a facelift. They need something to strive for. They need something to get excited for. And honestly, the Giants and the Warriors should be doing that, but they're a little bit farther out from downtown. If you know a little bit about the landscape of San Francisco, this would be dead set in the center, right next to Market Street. The BART would already have a stop there, multiple stops around the stadium. This is something where I've always said this, and I've grown up as in my career, and I've grown up a San Jose Earthquakes fan. But I've always said it: this Bay Area runs off of the teams in SF, and this area runs off of making the trip to SF a day trip, or the trip to SF to mean something. The Giants are culturally relevant in this area because of the beautiful stadium they have, the way that the transit works. People just get on the train and the last stop is the Giants Stadium. It just, the access is insane. And honestly, that makes it too easy for fans of sports in the area to not go to a game, right? You're going to
Hmm.
go to a Giants game if you like sports, whether you like baseball or not, because it's just, you're going to see the Bay, you're going to see the Bay Bridge, you're going to see all the beauty. You're going to make it in more to a day trip rather than just a game trip, if that makes any sense to you. And that's what I've always said the Quakes need to tap into that a little bit more. Recently, the mayor of San Jose said, hey, if someone comes in and buys the Quakes, we're going to try to put them in downtown. So the idea that the Quakes are in the wrong spot, or their stadium is a little too far from everything, is in the mind of the mayor of San Jose as well. And
Yeah,
and, and I'm going to say this: it's about a 10-minute drive to downtown San Jose. It's not like it's in the boonies. We're
right.
talking it's a good location now because everything's built around it now. But when it first came out, that stadium, yeah, it was far. It was far from everything.
Hmm.
But
And don't forget, there's also that Amtrak station, the Cal train station,
yeah,
I believe, that's like right along and near the airport too.
yeah, exactly. And they've made changes to that area to where you have a Cal train station, you have the San Jose Sharks Stadium, not too far, and then now you have all the buses, the VTAs that are going to the stadium there. In fact, it works now, but this gives, because of Bay FC, because of that new tenant that PayPal Park has. Honestly, if I'm an investor looking at the San Jose Earthquakes, I might be salivating, just realizing that, hey, we have the chance to possibly buy this team, and we already have a tenant for our stadium that we paid off in full. So you truly can sell that stadium or give it to Bay FC and charge them rent, and you can go build your new stadium, maybe with some city funding. And I know people don't like to hear that, but I bet you anything, San Francisco, if the last mayor, had an idea of putting them possibly dead set in downtown, you could bring something up like that to a potential investor. And man, oh man, does that team start to just salivate. A team dead in the center of downtown, at San Francisco, mimicking or rivaling Bombonera and Buenos Aires of Boca Juniors, right? You see that stadium, you see how it's dead set in the center, how that city breathes that soccer team. Of course, culturally, it's a little different, but it's going to be a market where you can bring in the United States, and people are going to fly in to watch the USMNT play in the middle of San Francisco. So if you're a San Franciscan, or if you're a San Francisco politician, I think you're trying to get this new potential investor to come in and possibly move it to San Francisco. And now, that's not a conversation Quakes fans like to have, but we got to be realistic here. Anybody that's going to buy this team is not going to have an affiliation to San Jose, honestly. If the Warriors owner didn't have affiliation to Oakland and moved it from Oakland to San Francisco, I hate to say it, it's just a smart business move. And yes,
Hmm.
San Jose's history is definitely about being in San Jose, but this is now a completely different ball game these days. It's all about making your stakeholders money. This is all about, X's and O's when it comes to getting those ones and zeros, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not about the history. It's not about what the love of the city is anymore. And we're talking almost $500 million to probably buy this team. They're gonna want to make the most amount of profit possible. And shoot, I don't even know if Vegas is out of the question if you buy this team, right? Don Garber has said that they want to be in this market, So we might see, which I actually thought was going to happen, was a pre-court Columbus Crew Austin situation where Jeff Fisher is going to have a team in Vegas move, but then some other potential buyer is going to come in and buy the San Jose Earthquakes, because I thought Fisher was going to want to have the A's and the Quakes possibly using the same stadium or the same parking or some sort of, good infrastructure deal so that it makes more sense for Fisher to move the A's to Vegas. But it seems like he's having a harder time, Fisher, moving the A's to Vegas than initially anticipated, right?
Yep.
And that's why I think we're seeing the sale of the Quakes coming now. I personally thought it was going to happen a little later once the A's are already established in Vegas. He was going to probably put both assets together, and then we're going to run into a save the Quakes 3.0, right? But yeah, it's a big topic. It's a huge topic because they just invested in a whole bunch of practice fields, a whole bunch of stuff for the South Bay, which honestly, wouldn't it be weird if they played in San Francisco and then they practice in San Jose still? Because I was just at the Seattle Sounders facility in Renton, and that's about 30 to 40 minutes away from the Seattle Sounders stadium. So it's totally normal. And a lot of MLS teams around the country do the same thing.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, though. Let's just say for the heck of it, Lakem just decides to, I'm not going to move the team out of San Jose. I will leave them at PayPal Park. What if he does, let's just say, maybe refurbish the area? Let's just say for the heck of it, he doesn't get rid of the big bar at, I would believe would be the eastern end of the stadium, but he builds a new stand behind it. Well, do you think that's a possibility? Or do you think, like you said, he's just going to move everything to San Francisco?
So the biggest deal with that bar, or the reason why there is that bar, is because there's only a certain amount of people that stadium can hold. It's because when they were building that stadium, there was a certain fire code, and there were certain neighbors that were talked to that they were okay with having a stadium if it didn't host music events, or if it didn't host any sort of concert venue like that. And for that reason, they kind of made it so that they can only have a certain cap of seats of 18,000. Myself, being a San Jose Earthquakes reporter, have always said the stadium looks empty because the bar is so much fun. People are just watching there. Why don't you just sell, general admission tickets, maybe have the cap at 21,000, 3,000 people are standing and everyone's in their seats. You can't have that because there's only two entrances in that stadium. And then you would be violating some fire codes at that point. You would have to build another entrance on the other side of the stadium, which I think you run into the issue of then it becomes a venue that the neighborhood didn't agree on. So honestly, building San Jose, that stadium better, is not a viable option for an investor, in my opinion. Because if I'm not mistaken, Fisher owns everything around there too. So he owns the hotel, he owns the retail spaces, he owns there's a couple tech companies there like Roku and Yahoo that rent out office space that Fisher owns as well. And Fisher knows what he's doing. He's gonna sell the stadium and the team, but he's gonna keep those because he knows it's in a prime location that he can rent out to those big companies, and it's a attractive thing for that company to be close to a soccer stadium, because then you get talent in and things like that, right? It's a fun area to work at, right? So personally, I think the best thing that could happen for a new investor, and this is not my personal opinion, but I'm putting my investor hat on, you buy the team, it comes with a stadium, you sell the stadium to Bay FC, which has no issue selling that stadium out. It becomes one of the marquee women's soccer only stadiums, which is such a great thing for that stadium. It's such a great, like, that stadium is beautiful. It's going to be a gem in that league. And then you try to find a way to either bring the Quakes up north, or you find a way to maybe put them close to Stanford, around there. Because again, the Quakes play in Stanford and they sell 50,000. You're telling me there is an issue with them selling 18,000 every game in San Jose? It's more of a location issue, in my opinion, than it is anything else.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Obviously, look, it's a great day. You know, John Fisher is getting out of the Bay one way or the other. I'm very happy about that because let's be honest, um, he hasn't been honest, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Not just with the Quakes, but with the Oakland A's as well. I can't call them Oakland anymore. Now they're just the Athletics.
Sacramento. Yeah,
Sacramento.
which is
Yep.
probably going to stay for a while now.
I know exactly. Well, boy, did he really mess up, didn't he? And we don't even know if Vegas is going to allow him to
Right.
make the move. We'll find out. But it's just crazy, man. I can't believe it. But that's how the ball bounces, as they say. But anyway, Fabian, I appreciate your time. Thank you again. Hope to have you back on again soon. And I'll talk to you later. Enjoy the rest of the FIFA Club World Cup.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Favian Renkel, SBI Soccer, and Urban Pitch joining us tonight on the Earthquakes being sold. Should be exciting and fun. We'll see what happens moving on. Now, joining me, my colleague who covers the New York Red Bulls and, of course, with New York Red Bulls too, the announcement that former U.S. men's national team midfielder Michael Bradley will now be the head coach of New York Red Bulls 2 in MLS Next Pro. James Burley joining me right now. James, welcome back to the show. First time here on StreamYard with me and YouTube. So great to have you back on. And can I say college graduate
You
of
can
Fordham
say.
University.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thanks for having me on. Love the show. Love the new format, and thanks again for the kind words. Glad
Oh,
to be
you're
back.
welcome. It's always great to have you on and to talk about soccer, of course, with the New York Red Bulls. So when you learned, not worrying about, obviously Vidad Ibisevic and another assistant coach for Sandro Schwarz's side was going back to Europe. And then you hear the addition of Ibrahim Sagaya giving him the promotion to join his staff. How shocked were you that Michael Bradley's name just came out of nowhere?
Yeah, I mean that was not something that I had expected whatsoever. Especially since I had known that he had just joined Jesse Marsh and become an assistant for the Canadian national team. That gig only lasted about a week or two for him, but apparently, from what we learned in that introductory press conference to Michael Bradley, that this had been something that was in the works for quite a bit. They had known that Vidad Ibisevic was probably going to head back home to Europe, was dealing with something, whether with his family or if he just wanted to go back. And Ibra Sakaya has done a fantastic job with the Red Bulls 2 team. That was the first thing they acknowledged in that press conference as well. So I wasn't shocked to see that he would be elevated in his role to an assistant with the first team. But when the name Michael Bradley came up, that's not a name that you turn away if you have an opportunity to get him in to coach your reserves. The third most capped player in U.S. national team history. I mean, like that's a big get, and he's a local guy. Started his professional career when the club was still the Metro Stars. I mean, I was unbelievably excited to say the least, and immediately I started thinking of when's the next time I can get down to Montclair to MSU Soccer Park to catch a game and maybe get the chance to chat with him. And then we had that press conference that went really, really well, and I think we can all say, for those of us who attended and maybe watched that, can appreciate his vision for the reserve side of the club.
Exactly. And of course, he got right away on the road against Carolina Core, the big 2-1 victory. Looks like seamless transition to me. They're still in the winning ways. They're in first place in the East of MLS Next Pro. What did you make from the match?
Well, I think it was more the same. Ever since that loss to NYCFC, NYCFC 2, of course, they've turned a corner. I mean, they were a successful team at that point in the season, but they've found their groove. They've been dominant. I think in the midfield in particular is an area where they've excelled. Audrey Mehmedi and Aiden Jarvis are playing wiser beyond their years. And then you couple that with goal scoring threats like Kasul and Tanner Rossborough, and then Newan Benedetti's arguably been the best player of the bunch lately. So I think, for one, let's acknowledge that Bradley came into a good situation with one of the better teams in MLS Next Pro. And I'm sure this is a coach that the players would want to play for. Now, as the match was considered, they did deal with a little bit of adversity going Carolina leveling, of course, before halftime. A mid-table team also managed by an MLS legend in Donovan Ricketts, the Jamaican international. And that's a fun little tidbit for Michael Bradley's first game. But Benedetti scoring early in that second half and relentless pressure. It never looked like that game was going to fall out of their hands after the start of that second half. And it's tough to say whether or not that's the Bradley influence already, or if that's just some of the good work that Ibrahim Sakaya has done. And he's done a fantastic job. I mean, his record in MLS Next Pro, including the playoffs, I mean, 27 wins through 51 games managed. And if you look at his entire record as the manager, some of it goes down in the USL Championship days, but when they were pretty much outmatched against those fully pro sides and that weren't affiliated with MLS sides. But the record speaks for itself in MLS Next Pro, and this is a guy who's been involved with the club since 2015, right? Before that as a player as well, but has managed as an assistant for the reserve side. So, I mean, he has a big hand in a lot of the players who made that jump. I think back to the 2016 USL team that included the likes of Aaron Long, Tyler Adams, Brandon Allen, Vincent Bezecourt, Florian Velo, you name it. That's why he's followed the track and has gone to the first team. And Michael Bradley coming in, I think, again, we'll see his influence more so in the later days, but the motivation is there from the players in ways that, going back to before that NYCFC2 game, I'm not sure I saw fully, but they're bought in now for sure.
No, absolutely. And it's just amazing to see. And of course, we can't really step back. I mean, we're seeing coaches' sons playing in MLS, now coaching in MLS, obviously. We have Berhalter's Greg is coach in Chicago. His son Sebastian's with Vancouver. Michael was under his father, Bob, when he started his career with the club as the Metro Stars. And then, of course, the U.S. men's national team in the World Cup in 2010 in South Africa for a time with Toronto. And then, of course, after Michael retires, he goes to Stabæk in Norway to join his dad, where he's coaching there. I don't know if he's still coaching there, Bob, but, do you think, someone like Michael, who's been through everything, learned from his dad, coached by his dad, went to play, internationally, regularly, played in Europe, came back to MLS, now is in the coaching bug. Do you think that's an advantage for Michael because he was basically coached by his dad?
I mean, it's an advantage that most people, I think, would be jealous to have grown up in a household with one of the greatest coaches in U.S. soccer history. And he alluded to that in his press conference. He said, of course, I've learned things from my father when I was at Stabæk, but you have to remember, I lived in a house with him, and that's something that he's obviously carried with him into his own life. And another advantage I think Michael has that his father didn't is the illustrious playing career as well. Because something that he said that I think was poignant is that, coaches, they try to take everything they learn from other coaches, but they also take every experience from their days playing. And Michael Bradley was one of the more intelligent players this country has ever really seen. And a lot of that was because, he bloomed underneath the guys of Bob Bradley before he was ever even a professional. So I think that's absolutely an advantage that he has that ended up helping him during his playing career. And I think he's the perfect type of player that would become a coach. He's only 37 years old, right? He's the same age as Tim Ream and Keylor Navas. He could still strap up the boots and probably play in this CONCACAF Gold Cup. Maybe didn't have the legs at the end of his career as he did when he was still in his 20s kicking it for AS Roma. But the fact remains the same. This is one of the greatest minds U.S. soccer has ever really had. And it is an absolute privilege for these youngsters at New York Red Bulls 2 playing at MSU Soccer Park to be able to get the chance to learn from him. And I've already talked about Audrey Mehmeti and Aiden Jarvis. If you're a central midfielder and you get the opportunity to learn from Michael Bradley, this is an absolute game changer for those guys' careers. And this is a club that already does a really good job of producing homegrown central midfielders. Just to think of Daniel Edelman and Peter Stroud, who pretty much start every game at central midfield for the Red Bulls first team right now. But the big name is Tyler Adams as well, who came through this academy and New York Red Bulls 2 and then the first team. And it's a great path to go through, and it just got a lot better, especially for those midfielders.
Exactly. And let's not forget as well, Mohamed Sofo going through that as well. And look what he's done so far, 6 goals in all competitions, 6 or 7 goals in all competitions, I believe. I know 3 in the Open Cup, 4 in the run of play in MLS. And that's exciting. See, this is what I want to see. I know it's not going to happen because probably there'll be a fight in the technical area. But the day that Bob retires, I want him to become Michael's assistant coach. I know it's not going to happen. But I would love to. I would actually love to see either that, or if he can get some of his former teammates on the national team. Let's just say, for the hell of it, Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan, well, he'll probably stay in the West Coast. He won't come to
Mm.
the East Coast, Landon. But just for the hell of it, maybe Clint Dempsey, maybe some other players. I don't know. Maybe Graham Zuzi, maybe.
I think one
Oh,
that's pretty likely would be Josie Altidore. I mean,
exactly,
those
Josie
two had
Altidore.
had a fantastic relationship at Toronto FC. I recall Michael Bradley and Josie having conversations in the lead up to the 2014 World Cup that ultimately culminated in Bradley convincing Altidore to come to Toronto and join him after he struggled to find form in the Premier League. And that's another guy who started his professional career with the New York Red Bulls. At that point, they had become the Red Bulls. But Josie is a guy who's on the East Coast. I don't see that as a long shot really, because Josie's not the type of guy who's gone into TV either in his
Nope.
post playing days. I think coaching back in New Jersey could be in the cards for him. But who knows?
Exactly. I mean, I would not mind that. I mean, that would be fantastic. Imagine Red Bulls having a coaching staff, whether it be Red Bulls 2 or one day he does go to the MLS club one day if Sandro does move on, either by his choosing or not, why not have, an US men's national team head coach who brings in some of his former teammates from the US men's national team and becomes a staff. I mean, that would be just a big coup in my opinion.
Well, I'm trying to think of what other names that Bradley could recruit then, because you got me salivating at this idea. Just have one for every position. Tim Howard, the goalkeeper coach. You bring in. I mean, he's another Jersey guy. I'm trying to think of who on the back line could fit that role. But I think just having one of those minds is a game changer. Not that Ibrahim Sakaya didn't have an illustrious career where he could pick and choose from some great moments.
Hmm.
I mean, he's a guy who played in Europe for a while with RB Salzburg as well. But Bradley is uniquely fit to be a great coach because of the type of player he was. Such
Hmm.
an intelligent, resourceful player. Not the most athletic, not the strongest, not the fastest, but always found a way to be efficient, play to his strengths, was a born leader. And he's unique to this area of the country as well, right? Like, not there've been a lot of good coaches to come out of New Jersey, admittedly. Greg Berhalter was one of them as well. But Michael Bradley knows this club, knows this area, and he said it about a million times when we talked to him, Dan, over Zoom during the week. This is the area he calls home more than any other place, and he's a guy who's lived both in his adolescence and youth and in his adulthood in many different places, and he still chooses to call this place home. I think he's going to relate a lot with the young players coming through this system, and can impart his wisdom that way. More so than even if he's able to bring in Landon Donovan from the West Coast and convince him that this is a worthwhile endeavor. I would be ecstatic about that, but I still think that Bradley alone is a dream hire for any MLS Next Pro team, especially for the New York Red Bulls reserves.
No, absolutely. I don't know if Tim Howard will leave his cushy job as Premier League analyst over in
Yeah, that's true.
Stamford in Connecticut with those guys, the two Robbies, and uh, everyone over there. But
Mm.
you never know. Maybe if Michael slips a little extra, what? Maybe who knows? I'm kidding. I don't know. But who knows? I mean, I don't know if Tim Howard ever wants to coach. I mean, doesn't sound like he wants to be, but you never know. Maybe the phone does come calling, and maybe he says he answers the call. We'll see what happens. Um, Once again, who in Red Bulls 2 do you think, if not this season, if there's like a quick call up, who do you think could make the roster for next year out of Red Bulls 2 to join Sofo and Valencia?
Ooh, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned Valencia as well, because he's a player who's been absolutely fantastic. Gutted that he can't be at the Gold Cup with Panama right now, because I do think he would, if not starting left back, I think he would be absolutely getting minutes off the bench with his form in MLS this year. So I'll go for another name who's playing at the Gold Cup right now and is getting minutes, and that's Andy Rojas, the Costa Rican right winger who came in from, I believe, Herediano at the start of the season. And this is a player who was potentially rumored to be joining the first team. There's a lot of discussion about that. Comes in, and I think it's the right move. Still 19 years old, coming into the second team, and hasn't really gotten. He's still getting used to the country, still getting used to the community. He's still trying to get acclimated to the style, but the talent is there, the skill is there. I think it's just a matter of time before he finds his footing and starts scoring some goals. I mean, you can see the fire that he plays with when I was watching Costa Rica, Mexico the other day. I mean, there's always fire when those two play each other, but he was right in the middle of it. He didn't look out of place against a mostly full strength Mexico side as well.
Hmm.
I think he's a guy with a ton of upside. But another position that I actually want to mention as well is the goalkeeper position, because Carlos Coronel, for as good as he is not going to be on the New York Red Bulls forever. And
Yeah.
AJ Marcucci is
Hmm.
is approaching his prime as a professional footballer, still 25 years old as a goalkeeper, and he's proven to be competent in cup games and when Coronel was unavailable for international duty. But that means one day there's going to be another open spot on this roster, and I think Aiden Stokes has been good enough at the goalkeeper position to make a challenge at the MLS level. I really do think he's got the potential to be an MLS number one, but so does Marcucci. And if Coronel does go, that'll be a shame for the Red Bulls and their fans. But they've got two young goalkeepers who can challenge out for a number one spot. And maybe there'll be some growing pains there, as there often are with young goalkeepers. But that could also be of great aid to the U.S. national team, too, because it's about time that we got more young goalkeepers who are American domestic competing for important starting roles in Major League Soccer, because we've now gotten to a bit of a crisis with that position in this country.
I
And
know.
that's a whole other can of worms. We don't have to get into that, but
We won't. We won't. I
I
promise.
do
But
think
no,
that
I agree with you there.
it's another name that I really think could make a big jump in the coming years.
No, I agree with you. I think so far from some of the highlights I've seen from Aiden Stokes at Red Bulls too, he's been phenomenal. He's
Yeah.
really done an excellent job keeping the ball out, making spectacular saves. I just, this club, either as Metro Stars or Red Bulls, has always been excellent developing goalkeepers. Whether you get Tony Meola when the league gets started, then you got Tim Howard, even Zach Thornton before he went to Chicago in the expansion draft. And then you bring over Johnny Walker, who was over in South America. I think it was for Colo Colo in Chile. I know he was playing in South America, goalkeeper there. And then you had Ryan Mera coming out of Fordham, your alma mater as well. Um, you know, there's always something about this club that does a great job, not just bringing in the best goalkeepers in the world or in the country, but also developing great goalkeepers as well. You rarely see that from any club. I mean, you always talk about the strikers, the midfielders, the defensive midfielders, the fullbacks, center backs. You rarely talk about the goalkeepers. I mean, obviously, it's not since Tim Howard has he really shined for the U.S. men's national team. And, everyone's like, oh, it's got to be this guy. You got to put him in Europe. It's got to be that guy. No, it's this one. No, it's that one. And, and you're thinking to yourself, well, who deserves to be the U.S. men's national team goalkeeper? But at the same time, who are you going to get him from? And, this club has done an excellent job developing goalkeepers. That's without a doubt.
I think it's a unique problem across the league as well. I'm trying to think off the top of my head how many goalkeepers in Major League Soccer on their first teams were academy products. And I know some of the names you mentioned there weren't necessarily academies or homegrowns for the Red Bulls, but they're players who were identified and then groomed within the system. A player that you could even apply that logic to 28-year-old Luis Robles, who came over as a well-established professional from Germany, but hadn't been playing for a while and had to come in an emergency for the Red Bulls and then played in 180 straight games and was ultimately improved as a goalkeeper, as a player from the environment that he was put in. So I think that there's a lot to be said. I'm trying to think across the country. There are very few genuinely developed homegrown MLS goalkeepers. I know there are some Americans who are starting. Patrick Schulte, he's one who came out of college at Columbus, and I know Gaga Slonina was an academy product that made the way over to Europe, but he hasn't really found his way out of the lower leagues in England, and he's still got time. He's a very young goalkeeper, especially for the goalkeeper position. But I do think that's, and again, I know we did say we wouldn't get into this, on the national level, that has started to show its consequences for this national team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that the Red Bulls uniquely, I mean, and there's really no shortage of position where the Red Bulls haven't done well in terms of producing players, at least relative to the rest of the country and MLS academies and MLS systems. But I mean, the goalkeeper position is one where they stand out as one of the few that have done a good job in this area. And yeah, that has led to some bigger problems
Yep.
for our national team.
Yeah, it really has, but we'll see what happens going forward. But as always, James, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. I will talk to you hopefully in the Zoom after this coming Wednesday's road match for the Red Bulls in Toronto.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Dan. Great to see
All
you.
right. No, thanks, and good to see you too. James Burley joining me tonight. Talk about Michael Bradley joining New York Red Bulls too as a new head coach, as Ibrahim Sagaya gets promoted to the first team and joins Sandro Schwartz's coaching staff in this one. And before I say goodnight, obviously there's no games during this week of the FIFA Club World Cup and the CONCACAF Gold Cup group stages. Um, you know, during this run in the CONCACAF Gold Cup for our U.S. men's national team. As always, I get annoyed when I'm seeing fans talking about certain players and they believe that they are not the right ones to be on the national team. And one of them is Patrick Ajimong. Now, let me say this, and I am not here to pile on top of Patrick. I'm not. But if you want an honest assessment about him through my opinion, through my eyes, I will gladly say it right now. First of all, I liked what I saw from him in the January camp. I also liked what I saw from him in the third place match in the CONCACAF Nations League, that he did score the goal from Diego Luna. And yeah, I know he stood like a tree, got the ball deflected off of him and into the goal against Trinidad and Tobago. And then he got a nice ball from John Tolkien and he beat the keeper, went around him, slotted it diagonally into the inside the far post to make it 2-1 against Haiti. Here is my assessment of Patrick Ajimong. And this is being honest. This is no frills. This is just an honest assessment from what I have seen from him in a national team jersey. Okay? He should not be on the World Cup roster. Not because you say he sucks. The only thing I'm saying, the reason why he should not be on the World Cup roster next summer is because he's not ready. He's not ready. The national team is different than a club team. You have to understand that he is still a bit raw for the national team. He does great work. He's a problem for the defenders. His only issue is at this point in time is not putting quality balls on frame. That's it. He needs more time to gel. He needs more time to be seasoned here. Okay? He's done okay in his 3 years at MLS. This is his current third season with MLS. But for now, Patrick Ajimong is not ready for prime time, meaning he's not ready for the World Cup. Now, if he does get selected for the roster for the World Cup, Mauricio Pochettino needs to glue his backside on the bench and never, ever use him. Never. Let him learn by watching in front of him. You tell him the reason why he's on the roster. I picked you because I want you to see what you'll be facing down the road. You will not be used now. You'll be for down the road. And if he says, I'll accept it, and he's watching from the bench, that's fine. But he should never, ever get off the bench in the World Cup, only when they got to go back into the tunnel for halftime or when they go back through the tunnel at the end of the match. That's it. He did good work in the January camp. He did good work in the third place match against Canada. He, in the Nations League, he also did a good job, a decent job in in the first 3 matches of the CONCACAF Gold Cup. He got lucky on one and he did brilliant on the other. But he's not ready for the World Cup. And that does not mean he doesn't deserve to go back on the national team. It doesn't mean that he shouldn't get another sniff of the national team jersey. It just means that right now he is too raw. He is not ready, and he deserves to wait his time. If the next cycle comes at the start of September or August of 2026 for the next cycle, so be it. So be it. That's his time to start. But for now, Mauricio Pochettino should not call up Patrick Agyemang because he is not ready. He is too raw. He is just getting started on this national team. He needs more games on the international level. And when he finally gets it, he'll be more dangerous. He will be better. He'll be more comfortable. And I could see him doing some damage. Until then, this Gold Cup is his only tournament, and that is it. Nothing more, nothing less. Patrick Agyemang is a future talent for the national team, but he's not ready right now for this World Cup. It doesn't mean he sucks. It just means that he's not ready yet. He's still too raw. There is potential. But once again, how he develops his potential, that's a different story, and we need to see him develop even more and better. Until then, as I've said, he's not ready for the World Cup. That's a different animal, and until he gets more comfortable being on the international stage, then he'll be ready for the World Cup. Right now, like I said, don't pick him, don't select him, keep him in the States, keep him at home, let him watch from home. You do select him for the World Cup, do not let him get off the substitutes bench. Glue his rear end to the bench and keep him there and tell him, watch, observe. You will not be called in. I want you to see what you're going to be facing down the road. Period. End of story. Because like I said, I don't want him ruined. I want him to be ready to go when we get to 2030 if he is still considered a part of this national team. That's all I'm saying. No, he does not suck. He's too raw. He's not ready. He's not ready for the World Cup. We have to be smart about this. We cannot throw him in there unless he's truly ready. I don't think he's ready right now. But I am not saying no more, Agyemang. I'm just saying not now. Not now at this point in time. You want to bring him with you? Tell him you're going to be ball watching from the bench. That's it. You're just watching the game from the bench. I'm not going to call you. You need to learn and see what is going to happen out there. And when you learn it, that will help you when you come back for more national team games with the U.S. men's national team, whether it be friendlies, Gold Cups, Nations League, World Cup qualifying. We'll have to wait and see. But when World Cup qualifying starts, that's when it's real, folks. That's when it's real. We cannot mess around here. As I said, we cannot mess around. It's time to go out there and just be patient with Agyemang. Let him finish up this Gold Cup. If you want to throw him in a friendly or two, that's fine. But when we get closer to the roster announcement, don't bring him on. You want to bring him on, Pochettino? Glue his rear end to the bench permanently. That's all I'm saying. Boy, I didn't think I was going to talk about that, but yeah, look. That's an honest assessment from what I am seeing with Patrick Agyemang. So all I'm telling you is this. He's not ready. Play it safe with him for next summer. As I said, keep him at home. Period. Dunzo. That's it. I want to thank my guests tonight, Favian Renkel from SBI Soccer and Urban Pitch, and James Burley on the New York Red Bulls' new head coach in Michael Bradley. My name is Daniel Feuerstein. Thank you for joining me tonight. Don't forget to join me this coming Sunday night as I have USA versus Costa Rica CONCACAF Gold Cup quarterfinal postgame show, and then back with another regular Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer show. My name is Daniel Feuerstein. Thank you very much for watching me tonight. As always, please, 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 please enjoy your football. Thank you. Take care. So long, and have a good night. And bye-bye for now. Have a good night, everybody.